I think it's going to be a Whitney summer again. It's summertime and we're trying to keep everybody cool. We've offered the cows some city water that stays a little bit cooler. Even though that's a metal trough, it does stay cooler. They of course can go in the stock tanks, which Lucy frequently is, our little mermoo. The pigs of course are the top priority because they can die so quickly from heat. So they get swimming pools, showers, wallows, and everybody's favorite, drinking directly from the water hose. Helga here gets special treatment because she is pregnant and due on the 27th. We've already moved her to her own pen and she's getting more modifications so that babies can't escape. We rigged up the fan again for the sheep, but Hamish is being an idiot with it. He's knocked it off a couple times and broke the handle. We have to put the wires up high so the goats don't chew on them, and it makes a clothesline effect when you go to feed them. The sheep's wool actually works as a cooling system as well, but they will spend all day in front of that fan if you let them. They don't spend half the time grazing in the summertime. They'll come back and yell for their alfalfa in front of the fan. They of course have their shade cloth, and they know when the sun starts to cast a shadow against the side of the barn right there. Well, after the tornado came through, the boys had to get a new shade cloth. We had to move that platform because they're stupid. And have to rub their nasty buck smell on everything. There. That's better. Well, I gave the boys a show cut, so I shaved them pretty bare. It should help a little bit with cooling them down, but I did it mainly for the website so you can really see what they look like underneath, especially with Lefty's moon spots. Speaking of goats, I said I'd show you my new one. This is Flora. Flora Byrne was an American pirate, and even though this goat looks a lot like Jack, she has a lot of moon spots, and even though technically moon spots can't be white or on white, she will pass those moon spots on to babies. Unfortunately, I can't breed her for another year. Well, now that the heavy rain has finally stopped, hay is in full swing. Not only did we have to wait for the rain to stop, but we had to wait for the ground to dry out in order to bale hay. And that's a little stressful because how else would I feed my cows during the fall and winter? Everybody's hard at work doing hay right now because there's a break in the rain. We're actually supposed to get rain this week at some point, but for right now, Derek's on the tractor and I've got the trailer, and we're gonna go move hay bales back to our neighbor Floyd's house where we pull from in hay feeding season. So we don't have to move the tractor back and forth from the fields to where we stack the hay. We just back up real fast and slam on the brakes and they should roll off. Then of course after you dump them like that, you gotta stack them up neatly. Just to be safe, we're keeping 54 bales of hay. We had 17 from last year in that count, but typically 3 bales per cow is what we aim for. I took some plants from the house. You probably can't see it hidden in here. A banana. So we're planting the bananas out here just for the leaves. We don't get bananas in this area of Texas. Because we get too cold in the wintertime. We found these dug up on the corner waiting for the trash to come at somebody's house on the walk. So we just took them and planted them in a pot. You'll notice there's a shade cloth up. This summer is what we call a Whitney summer. 3 years ago we had the same type of summer, if it still stays like this, but it's the end of June and we have not hit 100. 3 years ago, Dylan and his wife Whitney came out, and that summer we only got to 100, I think 2 or 3 times, which is really weird for us. It was like 80 something degrees and we were doing honey harvest because we had bees then, and it was just the weirdest thing. It was so cool. So ever since then we call it the Whitney summer. I think it's going to be a Whitney summer again. So I think parts of the US are going to be and are currently very hot right now, but we're kind of below average, I would say. It's going to be 92 today. Of course, the humidity has it up to the feels like is 90. I just looked it up. I think it's like 96, 97. But that is why we have this shade cloth. It's a 20% block, and everything has enough sun, even though these look like they have a little bit of chlorosis. They came from the house and they were in full west sun, so they'll appreciate this, I think. Also, it came with this side shoot. It had this kind of broken on the top. It'll still make something. It's still alive. I'm gonna plant it. I'm putting them in these small planting holes so that they won't reproduce like everywhere in my garden, because they would try. I have so many nailing pads I could be using. I'm gonna keep planting more bananas, and I'll give you a little bit of a garden tour in a minute. Alright, so there they are on that side. And then these raspberries did not get well drained like they want. This last one is still kind of alive, but that's my third and final attempt on raspberries in Texas. I have another one there and another one right there, that little one that we planted. This rose, it's called a Blue Girl. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. It did not do well last year, but this year that one's kind of spent. This year it's doing a whole lot better, and it's getting a little bit of relief from the shade cloth. The last video I told you that we weren't really getting any squash and zucchini, and we still aren't harvesting, but we have a lot more here because it finally stopped raining. I love the rain, but we got a lot of rain. This one's kind of struggling a little bit. This one's still tiny, but I think we're able to eat like 3 zucchini and a squash or something so far. So the tomatoes are doing pretty good, and I saw somebody on Instagram who lives not far from us, and she was pulling tomatoes when they have just the slightest blush on them because the worms have been so bad and the storm took so many. I love the entrance that the sketty squash and the roses makes, so much so that I backed up into one of my grapes behind me. Hopefully that will be okay. I think it will. This is the butternut squash on the right as I'm turning. On the left is more canning tomatoes, and behind there's corn. I can get away with growing corn this late because I have the shade cloth, but really it's too late for corn if you don't have that. Here's one of my pepper beds. This is cayenne peppers. I typically take those and dehydrate them to make crushed red pepper. And this is a red bell pepper, just waiting for it to turn red. Here's some more canning tomatoes. They look kind of spindly, but they've given me a lot. This is a dwarf mulberry tree. It's gonna get, I believe, 3 by 5. I don't have the tag anymore. Back here are some grape tomatoes that we and the chickens have been enjoying. The basil is doing amazing, but I've been dealing with spider mites on the thyme and oregano. This is a sage, and I just love that black with electric blue.